Catherine is a strong woman, marked by her experiences as a soldier. She is accustomed to facing physical and emotional challenges on the battlefield, but nothing prepares her for what she finds when she returns home that night. The city streets are quiet, but her heart is restless. There is an almost desperate anticipation in her walk to the front door, as if each step is charged with a hope she can barely name. As she opens the door, the familiarity of home welcomes her, but something feels different. The silence is not the same as before, it weighs on her in a strange way. The house, which should be a sanctuary after long days of service, has a tense, almost suffocating atmosphere. Catherine's heart races, and her eyes move quickly, searching for something to justify this feeling. Then, she sees him. Joshua, her husband, stands in the center of the room, but he is not alone. Beside him, an unknown woman, whose presence in that intimate space is an intrusion Catherine never imagined. Joshua turns to Catherine, panic evident in his eyes, but it is too late. Catherine already understands what is happening, even if her heart refuses to accept it. The world seems to slow down as reality unfolds before her at an agonizingly slow pace. Joshua tries to speak, his voice shaking with lame excuses. He tries to rationalize the situation, as if there is some plausible justification for this betrayal. "You are away from home too much," he says, as if the problem is only the time, and not the broken trust they have built over the years. Catherine feels a rush of conflicting emotions, disbelief, anger, sadness, all intertwine and manifest in tears that she refuses to shed. Every word that leaves Joshua's mouth feels like a knife to Catherine's heart. She listens in silence, struggling to maintain her composure. He goes on, talking about how alone he felt, how the distance between them had grown over time. He mentions the weight of being left behind while she was away serving her country. But none of this eases the pain Catherine feels. To her, it all sounds like empty excuses, desperate attempts to justify the unjustifiable. The woman next to Joshua, who had been silent until then, tries to leave discreetly, but Catherine stares at her for a long moment. There are no words between them, but Catherine's gaze says it all. It is a look of deep disappointment and pain, something the other woman, embarrassed, cannot hold for long. She leaves, leaving Joshua and Catherine alone. The room, now empty, seems larger and colder. Joshua takes a step toward Catherine, but she steps away, holding up a hand to stop him from approaching. "No," she finally says, her voice firm but full of restrained emotion. "Don't touch me." There is a moment of absolute silence, where only their heavy breathing can be heard. Catherine feels like she is on the edge of an emotional abyss, and any false move could make her collapse. Joshua tries again, with apologies and promises he knows he can't keep. He begs for forgiveness, insists it was a mistake, a momentary weakness. But Catherine, still processing everything, realizes it's not just the physical betrayal that hurts her. It's the broken trust, the lack of respect, and the feeling that everything she's worked for, not just on the battlefield, but in her marriage, has been thrown away. She remembers the days when she would come home after weeks away, tired but eager to see Joshua again. Each meeting was like a balm for the wounds she'd brought back from the war, a promise that despite all the horrors she'd faced, there was still something pure and true waiting for her at home. But now, that illusion has been shattered, and the home that once comforted her has become a minefield of uncertainty and pain. "I trusted you," Catherine finally says, her voice quiet but thick with emotion. "You were my safe haven, Joshua. And now I don't even know who you are." The vulnerability in her words is palpable. She doesn't scream, she doesn't lose control, but the weight of her sadness is evident. It's a silent but deep pain, one that cuts deeper than any physical wound she's ever suffered. Joshua tries to get closer once more, but Catherine backs away again. There's a distance between them now, not just physical but emotional, a barrier that may never be overcome. Catherine doesn't know if she'll ever be able to forgive him, if she'll ever be able to look at him without remembering this betrayal. She feels lost, as if the ground has disappeared beneath her feet. The silence between them stretches long, both trapped in their own conflicting emotions. Catherine knows she has to make a decision, but the pain is still too fresh, too real. She turns, leaving Joshua alone in the room, as she heads to her bedroom, where she allows herself to cry for the first time. The tears finally come, washing away the anger, sadness, and disappointment, but also leaving a void she doesn't know how to fill. Catherine knows that nothing will ever be the same. Something essential between them was broken that night, and she doesn't know if it can be repaired. She feels the weight of what's to come, the difficult conversations, the decisions that will need to be made. And as the night progresses, she prepares to face a new battle, this time within herself, where the enemy is the pain of heartbreak and the loss of what was once her greatest comfort. Catherine, still reeling from the discovery of Joshua's betrayal, feels an intense pain that seems to tear at her soul. She, who has faced so many challenges on the battlefield, now finds herself in an internal war, fighting feelings of humiliation, sadness, and anger. The physical pain she experienced in the war seems insignificant compared to the emotional torment that consumes her now. She never imagined that the words of a man, someone she loved and trusted, could hurt her so deeply. Every memory of her relationship with Joshua comes flooding back to her, like fragments of a movie she can't stop watching. She remembers the way he used to be, the man she fell in love with, the one who promised to be there for her no matter what. But now, that man seems like a stranger. Catherine wonders how it all fell apart so quickly, how the love they once shared was eroded by dishonesty and carelessness. Joshua, for his part, tries desperately to make amends, but his words seem hollow. He tries to justify his betrayal with explanations of the loneliness he felt while Catherine was away serving her country. He talks about the burden of staying behind, of watching his wife go on dangerous missions while he stayed home, helpless. But to Catherine, none of this makes sense. She can't understand how loneliness could justify such a profound betrayal. To her, it's a weak excuse, a pathetic attempt to minimize the devastating impact of her actions. Catherine feels a chill down her spine as Joshua tries to reach out, seeking some kind of reconciliation. He reaches out, but Catherine recoils, unable to bear the touch of someone who has hurt her so deeply. "No," she says, her voice shaky but firm. She doesn't want to hear any more. Joshua's words, once sweet and comforting, are now like sharp blades, cutting into her heart with every syllable. The room seems to close in on her, becoming a prison of overwhelming emotions. Catherine feels suffocated, as if there is not enough air to breathe. She looks around, searching for some anchor point, something that can give her stability, but everything seems to be falling apart. The house that was once her refuge, her safe haven, is now a constant reminder of betrayal and pain. Joshua tries to argue, saying that it was a moment of weakness, that he still loves her, that he doesn't want to lose her. But Catherine can't hear it anymore. She is locked in her own bubble of grief, unable to process anything beyond the crushing weight of betrayal. She wants to scream, wants to let out all the pain and anger she feels, but all she can do is stand there, motionless, as her heart shatters. Memories of the good times with Joshua, of the happy times they shared, begin to blur with the cruel reality of his betrayal. Catherine remembers how he used to look at her with admiration, how he used to make her laugh, how he promised to always be by her side, no matter what. But now, all those promises feel empty, broken, as fragile as shattered glass. Catherine knows she needs space, time to process all of this. She can't look at Joshua, can't bear the sight of the man who was her partner and who now represents everything she fears most: betrayal, loss, abandonment. Catherine doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to move forward. All she knows is that for now, she needs to cry, to release all this pain before it consumes her completely. As the tears fall, Catherine clings to the hope that one day this pain will subside, that one day she will be able to find peace again, even if it means rebuilding her life from the rubble of what was once her marriage. She remembers the words he said, "Believe me, no man wants to marry a woman like you." Those words echo in her mind, hurting her in ways she never thought possible. For years, Catherine had prided herself on her military career, her strength and independence. She had sacrificed so much for her country, and at the same time, she believed she was building a solid life with Joshua. But now, her achievements seemed to be crumbling, as if all her efforts were worthless. The pain Catherine feels is not just from Joshua's physical betrayal, but from the contempt she senses in his words. He sees her as a woman who is difficult to love, a figure who, to him, represents a threat to his masculinity. Joshua compares her to other women, those he considers more feminine, more easygoing, more normal. He believes that Catherine, with her military discipline and determination, could never be a traditional wife. And these words cut Catherine deeply, because she realizes that, for Joshua, all her sacrifice and dedication are worthless. Catherine has always known that her career has not been easy for those who love her. She has had long conversations with Joshua about the difficulties of being married to someone who serves in the military. But she has always believed that, despite all the challenges, they were united. Now, hearing these words from Joshua, she realizes that he has never fully accepted who she is. The pain of being rejected for being herself is unbearable. As Joshua tries to justify his actions, he continues to use words that hurt Catherine even more. He talks about how difficult it is for him to be married to such a strong and independent woman. He mentions how insecure he feels, how he feels he needs to prove his masculinity in other ways, because Catherine is not a wife like other women. She doesn't need him the way other women need their husbands, and that makes him resentful. Catherine feels a lump forming in her throat. She wants to scream, wants to tell Joshua that he is wrong, that she needs him too, that she loves him deeply, but the words won't come out. Instead, she feels a deep sadness taking over her. The one who was supposed to be her life partner, someone she thought understood her struggle, now turns out to be a stranger, someone who has never accepted the woman she is. With every word Joshua says, Catherine feels as if she is being pushed further and further away from him. She realizes that his vision of a happy marriage is completely false. Incompatible with her reality. He wants someone who will submit, who will depend on him, someone who will make him feel in control. But Catherine has never been like that, and she never will be. She wonders how they got to this point, how Joshua could hide his true feelings for so long. Joshua tries to argue that if Catherine were different, if she weren't a soldier, maybe things would have been different between them. He tries to convince her that it's her fault, that her life choices have made it impossible for him to be the husband she deserves. But Catherine knows, deep down, that this is just an excuse. She understands that the real reason for Joshua's betrayal is his own insecurity, the fear of not being enough for a woman as strong and determined as her. Catherine feels the weight of these words like stones tied to her heart. She realizes that, for Joshua, she will always be a woman who is difficult to love. And this hurts her in an indescribable way. She never expected love to be easy, but she also never thought she would have to choose between her career and her marriage. Now, it seems that this choice has been made for her, and the pain of this loss is almost unbearable. Catherine feels trapped in an emotional crossroads. On one side, she sees the life she built with Joshua, a life full of memories, of happy moments that now seem distant and almost unreal. On the other side, she sees her career, something she worked so hard to build, something that gave her purpose and identity. The choice between these two worlds seems impossible, but Joshua's words make it clear that he has never accepted this duality. As the tears fall silently, Catherine realizes that, for Joshua, she will always be a woman with two faces, a strong and impenetrable soldier on one side, and a cold and distant wife on the other. This dichotomy hurts her deeply, because she always believed that she could be both, that she could love and be loved while still following her passion for military service. But now, she wonders if that is really possible. Joshua keeps talking, but his words lose their meaning to Catherine. All she can hear is the sound of her heart breaking, echoing in her mind. She feels like she is drowning in a tide of emotions, unable to find a clear path out of this situation. The love she once felt for Joshua now seems like a distant memory, a flame that has been snuffed out by cruel words and a devastating betrayal. Catherine knows she has to make a decision, but the weight of that decision is overwhelming. She feels lost, as if the woman she once was has disappeared, leaving behind only an empty shell. The pain she feels is deep, and she doesn't know if she will ever be able to forgive Joshua for this. All she knows is that she has to find a way to move on, even if it means leaving behind everything she thought she knew. Catherine is in the eye of an emotional storm, one she never expected to face. Joshua's betrayal is devastating, but what really tears her apart inside is the realization that he never saw her for who she really is. He reduced her to a caricature, a woman too strong to be loved, a tough soldier who can't be a normal wife. This distorted vision that Joshua has of her is a broken mirror in which Catherine sees herself reflected, and each sharp shard of this shattered image is a new wound in her heart. Yet when Joshua tries to make amends, his words ring hollow. He tries to convince her that he still loves her, but Catherine can't shake the feeling that he's more concerned with saving face than saving what's left of their marriage. He talks about how he doesn't want to lose the only woman who understands him, but his actions contradict his words. Catherine, who has always been pragmatic in her decisions, now finds herself lost in a tangle of conflicting emotions. Catherine feels that Joshua is trying to make up for what he did, but the pain is still too intense. She's torn between the love she once felt for him and the bitterness that now fills every corner of her heart. Joshua's words, which could have been a source of comfort, sound more like an apology. He wants to believe that things can go back to the way they were, but Catherine knows the damage has gone too deep. As Joshua tries to convince her that they can still be happy together, Catherine realizes that he doesn't understand the depth of her pain. He can't see that it's not just the physical betrayal that has destroyed her, but what it represents, a total lack of respect and understanding for the woman Catherine really is. To him, the problem seems like a passing crisis, something that can be fixed with empty promises. But to Catherine, it's much more than that. It's the loss of trust, of security, of the certainty that she was loved for who she really is. Joshua tries to explain that it was a mistake, a momentary weakness. He insists that Catherine is the woman of his life, that he will never love anyone else as much as he loves her. But Catherine, who has always been a woman of action, finds no comfort in his words. She has always believed that actions speak louder than words, and Joshua's actions scream a truth she cannot ignore. He betrayed her in ways that go beyond the physical. He betrayed what they had built together. As he continues to speak, Catherine feels her heart harden. She wants to believe him, wants his words to be enough to heal the wounds he caused. But the reality is that the trust they once shared has been shattered. She remembers all the times she trusted him, how she believed that no matter what, they would be together. Now, that trust has been shattered, and Catherine doesn't know if it can be restored. Joshua tries to reach out to her, begging for a second chance. He promises to change, promises to be the man she deserves, but Catherine feels that something has broken beyond repair. What was once love is now a mixture of pain and disillusionment. Catherine knows that no matter how much Joshua promises, no matter how hard he tries, what was broken between them cannot simply be fixed with words. Catherine pulls away, refusing to be comforted by Joshua. She doesn't want to hear any more of his promises, his apologies. The pain is still too intense, and she needs time to process what happened. Joshua tries to insist, tries to convince her that they can get through this together, but Catherine knows that right now she needs to distance herself. She needs space to sort out her own feelings, to figure out if there's anything left worth saving. As Joshua continues to insist, Catherine feels a mix of anger and sadness. She wants to scream at him, tell him how much he hurt her, but she also knows that wouldn't change anything. His words are like an empty echo in an already empty room. There's nothing he can say now that will ease the pain she feels. What was destroyed between them can't be repaired so easily. Catherine, who was always strong and independent, now feels vulnerable and lost. She thought she could face anything with Joshua by her side, but now she finds herself alone, trying to pick up the pieces of a broken heart. Joshua's promises seem insignificant in the face of the magnitude of what he has done. Catherine knows the road ahead will be difficult, and she is not ready to make any decisions yet. Right now, all she wants is to be alone. Alone to cry, to process the pain, to try to understand how the life she has built with Joshua has come to this. Joshua continues to try to reach out, but Catherine refuses to give in. She knows she needs this time, this space to figure out who she is now, after everything that has happened. Catherine's internal battle continues. She wants to believe that love can overcome everything, but she also knows that love alone is not enough to heal all wounds. Joshua's words, which once would have been enough to calm her, now ring hollow and meaningless. What they had has been destroyed, and Catherine does not know if she will ever be able to forgive him for it. What she does know is that she needs time to heal, to rebuild herself, before she can even consider what comes next. Catherine feels the weight of the morning after, a calm that settles like a mist after the emotional storm that has shaken her. The sun has not yet appeared, but the sky is beginning to lighten, announcing the beginning of a new day. The air is cool, and she lies next to Joshua, the man who only yesterday was her safe haven, but who now represents a painful crossroads in her life. Every breath he takes beside her seems like a silent reminder of the turmoil that still swirls in her mind. She turns her face to look at him, observing the familiar contours of Joshua's face, but everything seems different now. There is a new distance between them, an invisible rift that Catherine does not know if she can cross. The promises he made the night before, between tears and apologies, echo in her mind, but they bring no comfort. Instead, they feed her insecurity, the doubt that grows like a shadow in her heart. Catherine tries to find a sense of peace, but all she feels is a growing emptiness. She thinks about how, the night before, Joshua held her hand, promising that he would make everything right, that they would get through this together. In that moment, she wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to hold on to that promise, but now, in the coldness of the morning, those words feel as fragile as a breath of air. Slowly, she gets out of bed, moving carefully so as not to wake him. Each movement is deliberate, as if she is walking on broken glass, aware that any misstep could hurt her even more. Catherine gets dressed in silence, her mind buzzing with a cacophony of thoughts. The love she still feels for Joshua is there, but now it is mixed with a pain she does not know how to ease. She walks to the window, staring out as if the sleeping landscape might offer answers to the questions swirling in her mind. The morning silence is almost suffocating, each second stretching into an eternity. She wonders how they got to this point, how their love, which once seemed so strong, now seems to be on the brink of a cliff. As Joshua begins to stir in bed, Catherine prepares herself for what comes next. She knows he will wake up, that he will try to talk to her, perhaps make more promises, but she is not sure she can hear anything else now. The uncertainty is paralyzing, and Catherine realizes that she is faced with an impossible choice, to keep trying to save what they have or to leave it all behind. Joshua slowly opens his eyes, and sees her standing near the window, her silhouette illuminated by the soft light of dawn. He calls her name, and Catherine feels a shiver run down her spine. She does not respond immediately, struggling to keep control of her emotions. Finally, she turns to face him, her expression a mix of sadness and determination. He holds out his hand to her, and for a moment, Catherine considers taking it. But there is something inside her that stops her. The pain is still too deep, the wounds still too fresh. She knows she needs time, that she's not ready to move on yet, no matter what direction that takes. Joshua stands up, walking toward her cautiously, as if afraid that any sudden movement might push her away for good. He starts to speak, trying once again to express his regret, his desire to change, but Catherine can't hear him anymore. His words blend with the noise in her mind, losing their meaning before they can even be processed. She interrupts him, her voice low but firm. "I need some time, Joshua." The words come out thickly, as if they're heavy with all the meaning they carry. Joshua stops, startled, and Catherine can see the pain and fear in his eyes. But she also sees something else, a reflection of herself, a woman who is desperately trying to hold her world together, even as it falls apart. He tries to argue, to tell her that they can work through this together, that he will wait for her, but Catherine has already made her decision. She needs space, needs time to sort out what she is feeling, to figure out if there is anything between them that can still be saved. Silence settles between them, heavy and charged with unspoken emotions. Catherine takes a step back, away from him. "I just need time," she repeats, this time with more conviction. Joshua hesitates, but finally nods. He knows he can't force her to stay, that he has to respect her need to walk away, even if it destroys him inside. As Catherine turns to leave, Joshua calls out to her one last time, his voice cracking with emotion. She pauses in the doorway, not turning around, feeling the tears threaten to fall. But she won't give in, not now. With a final breath, Catherine leaves the room, leaving Joshua behind, the weight of her choices hanging over them both like a shadow that can't be ignored. As she walks through the door, Catherine feels a sense of relief mixed with a deep ache. She knows this is just the beginning of a difficult emotional journey, but she also knows she needs it. There's no guarantee that what was broken can be fixed, but right now, all she can do is take it one step at a time, hoping to find a path that leads her back to herself. Catherine sits alone, her elbows propped on the table and her face buried in her hands. The stillness around her is almost suffocating, a thick silence that weighs on her already tired shoulders. The clock on the wall ticks away, but to her, the hours seem to drag on. The pain of betrayal still burns in her chest, an open wound that she doesn't know how to heal. Her mind is full of conflicting thoughts, memories of the love she once shared with Joshua mixing with the bitter reality of the present. She remembers what life was like before all this, when the love between her and Joshua seemed invincible. They knew each other so well, every gesture, every look filled with meaning. Catherine believed that nothing could shake what they had. But now, it all seems like an illusion, a dream from which she has suddenly woken up, thrown back to reality with a brutality that leaves her breathless. Catherine slowly raises her head, her eyes fixed on the wall in front of her, but her gaze is distant, lost in thought. She wonders how they got to this point, how something so beautiful could deteriorate so quickly. Joshua's betrayal is not just a wound, but a breach of trust, something she never thought she would have to face. She feels betrayed on a deep level, something that goes beyond physical infidelity. It is as if the world she knew was crumbling around her, brick by brick, until all that was left was rubble and disillusionment. The days pass in a blur, a succession of moments in which Catherine finds herself lost between pain and anger. Sometimes she wants to scream, to demand answers that may never come. Other times, she feels paralyzed, unable to think clearly, as if she is trapped in a nightmare from which she cannot wake. She feels isolated, even when surrounded by people who care about her. Because deep down, no one can truly understand the depth of her pain, the silent agony that simmered inside her. Joshua tries to reach out to her, but each attempt only seems to deepen the chasm between them. He apologizes repeatedly, his words are sincere, but Catherine finds no comfort in them. She hears what he says, but the emotional impact of the betrayal is so deep that Joshua's words seem lost in the void that now exists between them. Catherine remembers the nights they spent together, the laughter, the whispers in the dark, the promises of eternal love. All of that now seems so distant, almost as if it belonged to another life, another version of herself. She wonders if it is possible to go back, if it is possible to rebuild what was destroyed. But doubts plague her, and she fears that the damage will be irreparable. She knows she has to make a decision, but she is terrified of the possibilities. Leaving Joshua would mean giving up everything they built together, destroying the future they had planned. But staying with him seems equally painful, a choice that would require a level of forgiveness that Catherine does not yet know if she can give. She is caught between two worlds, unsure of which path to follow. Catherine begins to reflect on what really matters to her. What does she value? What does she need to be happy? These questions haunt her, and she cannot find easy answers. All she knows is that she needs time, space to breathe, to understand who she is now, after everything that has happened. She knows she can't ignore what she's feeling, but she also can't make a rash decision that she might regret later. In the midst of this storm of emotions, Catherine begins to realize that no matter what happens, she needs to rediscover herself. She needs to reconnect with the woman she was before Joshua, before the relationship, before all the complications. She needs to find her own strength, her own identity, no matter what comes next. Joshua realizes he's losing Catherine, but he doesn't know how to reach her. He's desperate to fix things, to make everything go back to normal, but normal seems further and further away. He tries to talk to her, tries to explain his actions, but each attempt only seems to push her further away. He sees the pain in her eyes, and it destroys him, because he knows he's the one who caused this pain. Catherine, in turn, feels Joshua's inner struggle, sees his anguish, but cannot put aside her own pain to comfort him. She is exhausted, emotionally drained, and the idea of trying to rebuild the relationship seems overwhelming. She does not know if she still has the strength to fight, if it is still worth fighting for something that may already be lost. Every conversation between them is fraught with tension, with unexpressed feelings, with fears and insecurities that hang in the air like a thick fog. Joshua tries to be patient, tries to give Catherine the space she needs, but he is also fighting his own demons, against the fear that she will decide that he is no longer worth it. Meanwhile, Catherine finds herself at a breaking point. She knows she needs to make a decision soon, but the weight of it paralyzes her. She is at an impasse, a crossroads where each path seems as uncertain as the other. And deep down, Catherine knows that no matter what she chooses, nothing will be the same again. She braces herself for another difficult conversation with Joshua, knowing that one way or another, something will change. She doesn't have all the answers, but she's beginning to understand that maybe she doesn't need to have them all right now. For now, the most important thing is to move forward, even if it means treading unfamiliar ground, in the hope that eventually she'll find the clarity she's been searching for. Joshua sits on the edge of the bed, his eyes fixed on the floor, his hands clasped tightly together, as if he can somehow hold what's slipping away between his fingers. The air in the room is thick with a tension he can almost touch, each breath feeling like a monumental effort. He feels the weight of the guilt, of the pain he's inflicted on the woman he loves. Catherine stands by the window, looking out, but her thoughts are elsewhere, lost in a maze of uncertainty and conflicting emotions. She hears Joshua's words echoing in her mind, "Please take me back." But each time she repeats that phrase to herself, the hurt seeps deeper. Catherine has always been a strong, resilient woman, but now she feels her strength diminishing, as if each passing day is draining a little more of her life energy. Joshua's betrayal is not something she can simply forget or forgive easily. It is an open, throbbing wound that hurts with every thought, with every reminder of what they used to be. Joshua, on the other hand, is desperate to make amends for his mistakes, but with every attempt to get closer to Catherine, he feels like he is bumping into an invisible but insurmountable wall. He has tried everything, flowers, sweet words, promises of change, but nothing seems to work. Catherine is not the same woman he knew, the one who always looked at him with love in her eyes. Now, her eyes are dull, as if the flame that once existed between them has been extinguished. Catherine finally turns to face him, her eyes cold but also filled with pain. She wants to believe his words, wants to believe that there is still a chance for them, but the fear of getting hurt again prevents her from taking that step. She remembers all the broken promises, the lonely nights when she wondered where he was, the emptiness she felt even when he was by her side. Each memory is like a blow to the heart, making it harder for her to make room for forgiveness. Joshua sees the internal struggle in Catherine's eyes and feels his own heart break. He never meant to hurt her like this, but now it is too late to erase what has been done. He stands slowly, approaching her carefully, as if she is a fragile vessel that could break at any moment. He reaches out his hand, hesitant, wanting to touch her but afraid of being rejected. "Catherine, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I am willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." Catherine hears Joshua's words, but they seem distant, as if they come from a place she can't reach. She feels torn between wanting to forgive him and fearing that he will hurt her again. On one hand, she still loves him, still remembers the happy times they shared. On the other, the pain of betrayal is a constant shadow, a reminder of how vulnerable she has become. She wants to believe that Joshua has changed, that he truly is sorry, but how can she be sure? How can she trust him again, knowing that he has already broken that trust once? Catherine feels as if she is on a tightrope, trying to balance her conflicting feelings as the abyss of doubt opens up beneath her feet. Joshua senses her hesitation and his heart sinks in fear. He knows he is on the verge of losing everything he loves, and the thought of it is unbearable. He moves closer, lightly touching her arm, as if this small gesture could create a bridge between them. "Catherine, I love you. I know I messed up, but I want to spend the rest of my life making things right for you." Catherine closes her eyes for a moment, letting the tears she's been holding back finally fall. His touch is familiar, but at the same time, strange, as if the man she knew has become a stranger. She feels the weight of his words, but she's still unsure. How can she trust him again? How can she be sure this won't happen again? She takes a step back, creating space between them. "Joshua, I need time. I need space to think. I can't just forgive and forget what happened. You broke something inside of me, and I don't know if that can be fixed." Joshua feels the chill that settles between them, but he knows that forcing Catherine won't help. He swallows hard, trying to suppress the panic rising inside him. "It's okay," he says, his voice cracking slightly. "I'll give you all the time you need. But please know that I'm here to help you. That I won't give up on us. I'll wait for you, Catherine, for as long as it takes." Catherine turns back to the window, tears still streaming down her face. She wants to believe him, she desperately wants everything to go back to the way it was before, but the reality is that nothing will ever be the same. Something has changed inside her, something that may never be the same again. Joshua walks away slowly, feeling the weight of loneliness settle over him. He knows the road ahead will be difficult, but he's determined to do whatever it takes to win Catherine's love back. But as he leaves the room, a part of him wonders if he's already lost her forever. Catherine stands there, staring at the horizon, trying to find answers in the dark sky. She feels empty, as if a part of her soul has been ripped away. And even though Joshua promised to wait, she knows that the final decision will be hers. And that decision weighs on her like a burden, a weight she doesn't know if she can carry. Joshua is sitting on the couch, the silence in the room is almost palpable. He looks at Catherine, who stands before him, her arms crossed as if shielding her heart from the words he is about to say. Her eyes, once shining with love, are now filled with anticipation and doubt. "I want you to be happy," Joshua begins, his voice shaking. "Even if that means I'm not part of your life." Catherine feels the impact of his words like a punch to the gut. For weeks, they have danced around the pain and betrayal, trying to find a way to get back to the way they were. But Joshua's words make clear what she already knows deep down in her heart: they can't go on like this. She takes a deep breath, trying to keep her composure. "I loved you so much, Joshua. But something changed inside me. I tried. I really tried, but the pain is unbearable. He nods, feeling tears burn his eyes. I know. And as much as it hurts, I think we need to go our separate ways. Catherine closes her eyes, letting a single tear fall. She approaches him, holding his hand one last time, feeling the warmth that once brought her comfort. I wish you the peace you need. Joshua squeezes her hand, knowing it is their final goodbye. And I wish the same for you, Catherine. Always. With that, they say goodbye, not with words, but with the silent acceptance that their love, though deep, cannot heal all wounds. Each moves on, carrying with them the lessons and scars of what was once a great love. For more incredible stories, subscribe to our channel. This is very important to us.